What happens when a former royal sits down with one of daytime television's most outspoken hosts and the conversation spirals completely out of control? You're about to witness one of the most shocking moments in television history as Meghan Markle faces off against Joy Behar on The View in a clash that nobody saw coming. Before we dive into this incredible story, make sure to hit that subscribe button and let me know in the comments what you think about celebrity interviews gone wrong. The studio lights blazed as Meghan Markle settled into the guest chair, her perfectly composed smile masking what would soon become an explosive confrontation. Joy Behar, never one to hold back, leaned forward with that familiar glint in her eye that regular viewers know means trouble is brewing. "So, Meghan," Joy began, her voice dripping with barely concealed skepticism, "you've been very vocal about your struggles with the media and the royal family. But some people are wondering if you're not just playing the victim card a little too conveniently." The temperature in the studio seemed to drop 10 degrees. Meghan's smile flickered for just a moment before she straightened her shoulders. "Joy, I think that's an incredibly unfair characterization when you've lived through what I've experienced. When you've had your character assassinated on a daily basis, it's not about playing victim, it's about speaking truth." "Truth?" Joy's eyebrows shot up. "Whose truth exactly? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you had every privilege imaginable handed to you on a silver platter, and when things got tough, you ran." The other hosts shifted uncomfortably. In their seats, this was already going further than anyone had anticipated. Meghan's composure began to crack slightly, her voice taking on a sharper edge. "You know what, Joy? I find it fascinating that you're sitting here judging my choices when you have absolutely no idea what it's like to be scrutinized for breathing differently, for holding your bag wrong, for existing while being different in a centuries-old institution." "Oh, please," Joy shot back, her voice rising. "You married into the most famous family in the world. Did you think it was going to be a fairy tale? Did you think you could just waltz in and change everything to suit your needs?" "I thought I could make a difference," Meghan fired back, her calm facade finally cracking. "I thought I could use my platform to actually help people instead of just waving and smiling while real issues get ignored." Joy laughed, but it wasn't a pleasant sound. "Help people by sitting in a mansion in California, giving interviews about how hard your life is. By throwing your husband's family under the bus on international television." "I never threw anyone under the bus." Meghan's voice was steel now. "I told my story. I told the truth about what happened to me, about how I was treated, about how I was pushed to the brink." "Your truth?" Joy emphasized mockingly. "What about the fact that you knew exactly what you were signing up for, and then acted shocked when it wasn't all designer gowns and charity galas?" The studio audience was dead silent, sensing they were witnessing something unprecedented. Meghan stood up slightly in her chair, her hands clenched. "You want to know what I signed up for? Joy, I signed up to serve. I signed up to support my husband. I signed up to try to modernize an institution that desperately needed it. What I didn't sign up for was systematic racism, for being hung out to dry by people who were supposed to protect me. Racism." Joy's voice cracked like a whip. "Every time someone criticizes you, it's racism. That's convenient, isn't it? You can't just claim racism every time someone calls you out on your behavior." The words hung in the air like poison. Meghan's eyes blazed with fury, and for a moment it looked like she might actually walk off the set. Instead, she leaned forward, her voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. "You have no idea what you're talking about. You sit here in your comfortable chair, in your safe little world, and you think you can judge experiences you've never lived. You think you can dismiss real trauma, real pain, real discrimination, because it doesn't fit your narrative." Joy wasn't backing down. "I've been in this business for decades, sweetheart. I've seen every sob story, every victim complex, every carefully crafted narrative designed to make people feel sorry for rich, privileged celebrities. And that's exactly what this is. Sob story." Meghan's voice was incredulous. "You think? Contemplating suicide is a sob story. You think having your passport taken away, being told you can't get help when you're struggling with your mental health, you think that's a sob story?" "I think it's convenient timing," Joy shot back ruthlessly. "I think it's interesting how all these revelations came out right around the time you needed sympathy for your big television interview." The other hosts were frantically trying to signal for a commercial break, but both women were locked in combat now, neither willing to back down. Meghan stood up fully, her composure completely shattered. You know what's convenient, Joy? Your ability to sit here and dismiss other women's experiences while claiming to be a feminist. Your ability to tear down someone who's actually trying to make a difference while you collect your paycheck for being controversial. Don't you dare question my feminism, Joy snarled, also rising from her seat. I've been fighting for women's rights since before you were born. I don't need some princess wannabe lecturing me about feminism. Princess wannabe. Meghan's voice was deadly quiet now. Is that what you think this is about? You think I wanted to be a princess? You think any rational person would choose to be destroyed by the media every single day for the privilege of wearing a tiara? The tension in the studio was unbearable. Camera operators were getting nervous, wondering if they should keep rolling or cut away. The audience sat frozen, unsure whether to applaud or run for the exits. Joy's face was flushed with anger. I think you wanted the fame and the fortune and the platform, and when you realized it came with responsibilities and scrutiny, you couldn't handle it. So you packed up your toys and went home, but not before making sure everyone knew how badly you'd been treated. Responsibilities? Meghan laughed bitterly. My responsibility was to shut up and smile while they tore me apart. My responsibility was to accept that my child would never be protected the way other royal children were. My responsibility was to pretend that everything was fine while I was dying inside. Drama, 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 Joy said dismissively. Everything is life and death with you people. You can't just have normal problems. Everything has to be a crisis. Everything has to be about oppression and victimization. You people. Meghan's voice was ice cold now. Excuse me, what exactly do you mean by you people? Joy realized she'd stepped over a line, but she was too far in to back down now. I mean celebrities. I mean people who live in bubbles and think their problems are more important than everyone else's. No, Meghan said firmly. That's not what you meant, and we both know it. The studio fell into a suffocating silence. Joy's face went pale as she realized the implication of her words. The other hosts looked like they wanted to disappear into their chairs. Don't you dare try to twist my words, Joy said, but her voice lacked its earlier conviction. I'm not twisting anything, Meghan replied, her voice gaining strength. I'm calling out exactly what just happened here. You've spent this entire interview trying to invalidate my experiences, trying to diminish my pain, and now you've shown your true colors. The confrontation was reaching a boiling point, with both women locked in a stare-down that felt like it could shatter glass. The studio audience held their breath, sensing that what came next would determine whether this interview would end in reconciliation or complete disaster. Little did they know that the worst was yet to come, and what Joy Behar said next would cross a line that could never be uncrossed. Joy's face flushed red as she realized she'd been caught in her own trap. But instead of backing down, she doubled down with a venom that shocked everyone in the studio. You know what, Meghan? I'm tired of this. I'm tired of having to walk on eggshells around you because you'll cry racism at the drop of a hat. Some of us have real problems to deal with without having to coddle every celebrity who can't handle criticism. The words hit like a physical blow. Meghan's eyes widened in disbelief, and for a moment she seemed genuinely speechless. When she finally found her voice, it was barely above a whisper. Did you actually just say that to me on national television? I said what everyone else is thinking, Joy continued, seemingly oblivious to the gasps from the audience. We're all supposed to pretend like your problems are special, like your pain is more important than anyone else's, just because you married into the royal family. Whoopi Goldberg was frantically trying to regain control of the situation, but both women were beyond listening to reason. Meghan stood up from her chair, her entire body trembling with rage. Unbelievable. This is exactly what I'm talking about. This is exactly the kind of dismissive, racist rhetoric that I dealt with every single day in that institution. And now I'm getting it from you, someone who claims to be progressive. Don't you dare call me racist, Joy shot back, also standing. Now, I've been fighting racism my entire career. Just because I don't buy into your victim narrative doesn't make me racist. Your victim narrative, Meghan's voice was getting louder now, her composure completely gone. You think being suicidal is a narrative. You think having concerns about your child's safety is a narrative. You think being isolated and silenced is a narrative? I think you're manipulative, Joy said with brutal honesty. I think you knew. Exactly how to play the race card and the mental health card to get sympathy when your little princess fantasy didn't work out. The studio erupted. Audience members were shouting, some in support of Meghan, others seemingly agreeing with Joy. The other hosts were pleading for calm, but it was too late. The interview had devolved into something unprecedented. Meghan's voice cut through the chaos like a blade. You want to know what's manipulative? Joy. Using your platform to attack someone who's already been through hell. Using your influence to perpetuate the same harmful stereotypes that have been used to silence women like me for centuries. Women like you, Joy scoffed. You mean privileged? Women who married into wealth and fame and then complained when it wasn't handed to them on a silver platter. I mean women of color, Meghan said firmly. I mean women who dare to speak up when they're being mistreated. I mean women who refuse to accept that their pain doesn't matter because they're successful. Joy's laugh was harsh and bitter. Oh, please, you're half white. You lived your entire life as a privileged actress, and now suddenly you're the spokesperson for women of color. Give me a break. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. The studio fell into complete silence. Even the camera operators stopped what they were doing. Meghan's face went through a series of emotions: shock, hurt, and finally, cold. Fury. Did you just question my racial identity on national television? Meghan's voice was deadly quiet now. Joy seemed to realize she'd crossed a line she couldn't uncross, but her pride wouldn't let her back down. I'm questioning your sudden embracing of an identity that was convenient for your narrative. Convenient? Meghan's voice was rising. Again, you think growing up mixed race in America was convenient. You think dealing with identity issues my entire life was convenient. You think having people question whether I belong anywhere was convenient? I think you played up whatever identity served your purposes at the time, Joy said cruelly. When you were an actress, you were just Meghan. When you needed sympathy, suddenly you were a woman of color facing racism. The other hosts were horrified. Sarah N. was visibly shaking her head, while Alyssa Farah Griffin looked like she wanted to crawl under the table. Whoopi was making desperate hand signals to the producers. Meghan's response was measured but filled with ice. You know what, Joy? Thank you. Thank you for proving every single point I've ever made about the racism I've faced. Thank you for demonstrating exactly why I had to leave that institution. And thank you for showing America exactly who you really are, who I really am. Joy's voice was shrill now. I'm someone who's not afraid to call out manipulation when I see it. I'm someone who won't be bullied into silence by accusations of racism every time I disagree with someone. You're someone who just questioned my racial identity on national television, Meghan said firmly. You're someone who just told me that my experience of racism isn't valid because I'm not dark enough for you. You're someone who just perpetuated every harmful stereotype about mixed-race people. Joy realized she was losing the audience, losing her co-hosts, losing everything. But instead of apologizing, she went for the nuclear option. You know what? I'm done. I'm done pretending that your problems are more important than everyone else's. I'm done walking on eggshells around someone who uses their race and their mental health struggles as weapons to shut down any criticism. Weapons? Meghan's voice was incredulous. You think my pain is a weapon? You think contemplating suicide is a weapon? You think sharing my story to help other women is a weapon? I think you're calculating, Joy said with finality. I think every tear, every revelation, every emotional moment has been carefully planned to garner maximum sympathy and deflect from the real issues. The real issues? Meghan laughed bitterly. What are the real issues, Joy? That I didn't shut up and smile while I was being destroyed. That I didn't accept that my child would be treated differently because of the color of his skin. That I didn't pretend everything was fine while I was dying inside. The real issue, Joy said, her voice dripping with disdain, is that you're a quitter. You couldn't handle the heat, so you ran away, but not before making sure everyone knew how badly you'd been treated. A quitter. Meghan's voice was dangerous now. I'm a survivor. I'm someone who chose her mental health and her family over an institution that was determined to destroy her. I'm someone who refused to be silenced. You're someone who aired your dirty laundry on international television, Joy shot back. You're someone who threw your husband's family under the bus for ratings and sympathy. I told my truth, Meghan said firmly. I shared my story so that other women wouldn't have. to suffer in silence the way I did. Your truth, Joy said mockingly. Always your truth. Never the whole truth, never the complicated truth, just the version that makes you look like the victim. The confrontation was reaching a fever pitch. Both women were standing now, facing each other across the table like gladiators in an arena. The studio audience was on the edge of their seats, unsure whether to applaud or flee. Meghan's voice cut through the tension like a knife. You know what, Joy? I came here today hoping to have a real conversation about important issues. I came here thinking I could trust you to be fair, to be honest, to be professional. But instead, you've shown me exactly why women like me struggle to be heard. Women like you struggle to be heard because you're not saying anything worth hearing, Joy replied with brutal honesty. You're just complaining about how hard your incredibly privileged life has been. Privileged? Meghan's voice was incredulous. You think having your mental health dismissed is privileged? You think having your child's safety questioned is privileged? You think being driven to the point of suicide is privileged? I think you're dramatic, Joy said dismissively. I think you're self-absorbed, and I think you're manipulative. The words hit like physical blows. Meghan stood there for a moment, absorbing the full impact of what had just been said to her on national television. When she finally spoke, her voice was calm but filled with steel. You know what, Joy? I'm done. I'm done trying to explain my experiences to someone who's determined to invalidate them. I'm done trying to have a rational conversation with someone who's more interested in being cruel than being honest. Running away again? Joy taunted. Just like you did from the royal family. That was the final straw. Meghan's composure snapped completely, and what she said next would end not just the interview, but potentially Joy's career as well. Meghan's eyes blazed with a fury that seemed to electrify the entire studio. When she spoke, her voice carried the weight of years of suppressed anger and pain. You want to know what running away looks like, Joy? Running away is what you're doing right now. Running away from accountability, running away from the harm you're causing, running away from the fact that you just revealed yourself to be everything that's wrong with this industry. Everything that's wrong with this industry, Joy's voice was shrill now, her own composure completely gone. What's wrong? Not the entitled princess who can't handle criticism. You're what's wrong when you use your platform to perpetuate racism, Meghan shot back, her voice rising to match Joy's. You're what's wrong when you dismiss women's mental health struggles. You're what's wrong when you question someone's racial identity because it doesn't fit your narrow worldview. The other hosts were desperately trying to intervene, but both women were beyond reason now. Whoopi was frantically gesturing to the producers, while Sarah N. looked like she was about to cry. Don't you dare lecture me about racism, Joy snarled. I've been fighting racism longer than you've been alive. I don't need some Hollywood actress turned fake royal telling me about discrimination. Fake royal. Meghan's voice was deadly quiet now. Is that what you think I am? A fake? An imposter? Someone who doesn't belong? I think you're someone who used whatever advantages you had to get where you wanted to go, Joy said with vicious precision. And when it didn't work out the way you planned, you played every card in the deck to get sympathy. Every card in the deck, Meghan repeated slowly. You mean my race card? My mental health card? My victim card? Is that what you think my pain is, Joy? A game. I think you're calculating, Joy said, doubling down. I think every move you've made has been carefully planned to maximize your public sympathy and your personal gain. The studio audience was getting restless. Some people were shouting support for Meghan, others were defending Joy, and the entire atmosphere was becoming increasingly hostile. Meghan's voice cut through the chaos like a blade. You know what's calculating, Joy? Sitting here and systematically trying to destroy someone who's already been through hell, using your platform to perpetuate the same harmful narratives that drove me to contemplate suicide. There you go again, Joy said dismissively. Back to the suicide card. That's your trump card, isn't it? Whenever someone challenges you, suddenly you're suicidal. The words hit the studio like a bomb. The audience gasped audibly. The other hosts looked horrified. Even the camera operators seemed shocked by the cruelty of the statement. Meghan stood there for a moment, seemingly stunned by the depths of Joy's cruelty. When she finally spoke, her voice was filled with a pain so raw it was almost unbearable to hear. Did you just mock my mental health struggles? Did you just dismiss the darkest period of my life as playing a card? I'm calling out manipulation when I see it, Joy said, but her voice lacked its earlier conviction. She was starting to realize she'd gone too far. Manipulation? Meghan's voice was breaking now. You think wanting to die was manipulation? You think being so desperate that I considered ending my life was manipulation? You think the pain I felt, the isolation, the hopelessness, you think that was all fake? The studio was dead silent now. Everyone could sense they were witnessing something that would have lasting consequences. Joy's face had gone pale, but she was too far in too. Back down. I think you're very good at getting people to feel sorry for you. Feel sorry for me? Meghan laughed, but it was a sound devoid of any humor. You think I want people to feel sorry for me? You think I wanted to share the most painful, humiliating moments of my life for sympathy? I think you shared them for effect, Joy said, but her voice was barely audible now. Effect. Meghan's voice was rising again. The effect of helping other women who are struggling. The effect of showing people that it's okay to ask for help. The effect of maybe saving someone else's life. The effect of making everyone forget about your real problems, Joy muttered. My real problems? Meghan's voice was incredulous. What are my real problems, Joy? That I didn't shut up and smile while I was being destroyed. That I didn't accept. That my child would be treated as less than because of his race. That I chose my family over an institution that was killing me. Your real problem, Joy said, finding her voice again, is that you can't handle not being the center of attention. You can't handle not being the most important person in the room. The accusation hung in the air like poison. Meghan stared at Joy with an expression of complete disbelief. Center of attention. Meghan's voice was barely controlled now. You think I wanted this attention? You think I wanted to be scrutinized and criticized and torn apart every single day? You think I wanted my every move analyzed and judged? Think you wanted the platform? Joy said with renewed venom. I think you wanted the fame and the influence, and when it came with consequences, you couldn't handle it. Platform. Meghan's voice was getting louder again. You want to talk about platform? You're using your platform right now to attack someone who's already been through hell. You're using your influence to perpetuate harmful stereotypes and dismiss real trauma. I'm using my platform to call out what I see as manipulation and dishonesty, Joy shot back. Dishonesty. Meghan's voice cracked. What have I been dishonest about? What part of my story do you think is a lie? All of it, Joy said with brutal finality. The racism, the mental health crisis, the concern for your child, all of it carefully crafted to get maximum sympathy. The words hit like physical blows. Meghan stood there, absorbing the full impact of what had just been said to her. When she finally spoke, her voice was filled with a cold fury that made everyone in the studio uncomfortable. You know what, Joy? Thank you. Thank you for proving every single point I've ever made about the treatment I've received. Thank you for demonstrating exactly why I had to leave that institution. And thank you for showing America exactly who you really are. Who I really am is someone who won't be bullied into silence, Joy said, but her voice was shaking now. Who you really are, Meghan said with deadly precision, is someone who just dismissed another woman's mental health struggles on national television, someone who just mocked a suicide attempt, someone who just questioned my racial identity and called my pain fake. The studio was silent, except for the sound of Joy's heavy breathing. She seemed to realize, finally, the magnitude of what she'd done. You know what Meghan said, her voice gaining strength? I'm done. I'm done trying to reason with someone who's determined to be cruel. I'm done trying to explain my experiences to someone who's more interested in being controversial than being human. She started to remove her microphone, but Joy wasn't finished. Running away again, Joy taunted desperately. Just like you always do when things get tough. Meghan stopped, turned around, and looked Joy straight in the eye. No, Joy. I'm not running away. I'm walking away. There's a difference. I'm walking away from toxicity. I'm walking away from someone who just proved that they're exactly the kind of person who made my life hell. You can't handle the truth, Joy said weakly. The truth. Meghan's voice was ice cold now. The truth is that you just revealed yourself to be everything that's wrong with this industry. The truth is that you just dismissed mental health struggles, questioned racial identity, and mocked someone's pain on national television. The truth is that you're exactly the kind of person who drives people to dark places. She finished removing her microphone and placed it carefully on the table. The truth is that I deserve better than this, and so do your viewers. As Meghan turned to leave, Joy made one final, desperate attempt to regain control. "You can't just walk out of here. This is my show." Meghan paused at the edge of the stage and looked back one last time. "Actually, Joy, I can. Because unlike you, I know when to walk away from something that's harmful. Unlike you, I choose my mental health over ratings. And unlike you, I refuse to be part of something that perpetuates the very problems I've been fighting against." The studio erupted as Meghan walked off the stage. Some audience members were applauding, others were booing, and the chaos was complete. Joy stood there, looking stunned and defeated, finally realizing the magnitude of what she'd done. Whoopi was frantically trying to regain control, but it was too late. The damage was done. The interview was over, and the fallout would be swift and severe. As the cameras continued to roll, capturing every moment of the chaos, it was clear that this wasn't just the end of an interview. It was the end of Joy Behar's career as America watched her destroy herself with her own words. The confrontation that started as a simple interview had become a defining moment in television history, and the repercussions would be felt for years to come. Meghan Markle had walked away with her dignity intact, while Joy Behar was left to face the consequences of her actions. What did you think of this explosive confrontation? Do you believe Joy Behar went too far, or do you think she was just asking tough questions? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more incredible stories like this one.